Welcome, folks, to this first fortnight event in collaboration with the Dublin North Northeast Recovery College and partner collaborators across the North Dublin Meath areas. This is the second time we've hosted the first fortnight event, which is quite exciting, and a lot of people here were involved in that event as well. And to some extent, this event is kind of an additional piece to a kind of evolution that happened in the summer this year with A Time to Sing. And the crew here will possibly talk a bit more about that in a few minutes. It's probably worth saying that the overall idea for this event today was about creating a space for open dialogue through music, through conversation, and through kind of collective connection. There was a particular aspiration which was to look at transcultural dialogue in relation to groups of people who may not necessarily have the open space to voice their experiences about mental health, to voice their concerns about mental health, and in particular in diverse communities who wouldn't be considered mainstream and who often don't access, for example, mental health services, for example, community educational projects. Interestingly in itself, to reach out to create that transforming kind of cultural dialogue didn't necessarily manage to draw in the extent of, I suppose, cultural diversity that we aimed for. Or so we might think. That's yet to unfold during the course of the next few hours. In our initial rendition of coming together, it was quite diverse. We'll see where that goes today. So the way that the dialogue will unfold today may be different than anticipated, and that's perfectly okay. A lot of people have heard the word dialogue previously and think that's just a couple of people getting together and just kind of having a chat, and a few people having a chat, and everybody having the opportunity. What today's open dialogue is about is to try to demonstrate that through music as a dialogue, through conversation as an open dialogue, in a specific way, which we'll talk about later on when we come back after we get a little bit of grub and something to drink, that it can enable the way of self-expression that some other arenas, some other places where we might want to speak, where we might want to be heard, is not so easy. So we'll find out today whether our voices are kind of shooken up, both in terms of singing, which it is going to be shooken up quite soon, and in terms of the ability to speak our truth later on as time goes through, and to share some of our diverse experiences, to share how we can engage, how we struggle to engage, and how statutory and services per se around us might disable our ability to engage because of our special nature, because of our diverse natures. So that's where the dialogue will go later on. Some of you expressed some kind of fears, anxieties coming into the open space in terms of, should we be masked, should we be kind of social distance, etc. So I just want to share the guidelines for this campus, just to hopefully disperse some of your fears. First of all, we have, I can't remember the fancy name, but we run this air around here at a ferocious pace. So the air is consistently, this building was only built 3 years ago, so the air's consistently been thrown around. There's a fancy name for it. Anybody got it? That's the one, HEP, yeah. So in terms of air circulating, it's okay. In terms of social distancing, in DCU as in other educational institutions, university education institutions, there is no social distancing rule. For lots of reasons that I'm not going to go into. So what people do is they require people to generally wear masks, not to eat indoors, because the indoor spaces aren't necessarily conducive to, apart from this room, conducive to safe distancing. The only criteria where that can alter is where some of the teaching, some of the activities that are educational nonetheless involve some sort of performance or some sort of kind of interactivity that require voice to be seen or voice to be heard. And in those cases, people need to take personal responsibility and in so much as possible to apply kind of good sense and social distancing rules. So you'll see that this group are spread apart more than, for example, the rest of us, because some of this group will, for the purpose of the singing, remove their masks for that aspect of the session. Um, I don't think I want to say anything more, because I think if I say anything more, it's kind of almost kind of give direction to the dialogue as we go forward. Other than to thank First Fortnight for once again allowing kind of within the university event to take place, and to the Recovery College, and to this particular gang here who have already gone through this process before in the summer, and now are going through the process and then some more within a different kind of singing dialogue today. And Justin, thank you to all of you for that opportunity, and to Justin and Patrick for coming here and at short notice trying to work out what the hell do you want us to do, Liam, and managing to get it off the ground. So thank you for that. And in case you're off the hook in terms of you think you just have to talk, or not, if that's your choice, we will be doing a collective musical ensemble where we'll all have the opportunity to create a community rhythm at the end of the session today, just to show where dialogue is not necessarily just about talking, that it's also about body and voice, etc., etc. So what I'm going to do is stop there. I'm going to pause, and it will seem like a bit of a false pause because we need to switch mics. So almost like take 1 minute before we go again, and after 1 minute the guys will give you the thumbs up to take it away.
My name is Ali Felton, and I facilitated this group, A Time to Sing, with Christine O'Donnell. I just laughed at myself because Liam was saying something earlier about we've been through this process before, and I was like, the process that we went through was nothing like this, because it was like lashing rain outside, socially distanced with masks. We were running under like an overpass to take over. Like, it was I've done a few of these songwriting workshops before, and it was just a really different experience because we couldn't touch each other, and like touching and showing people and all that kind of stuff, it's an easy way to create a dynamic. So this group was quite different, to be right in the open. There was a lot more of us to begin with, but I think the group that we have here is actually a testament to the dynamic that we did create, even with the conditions that we were in. And the dialogue that we had, basically everybody was saying at the beginning, just like, it's so good to be with people. Because we just come out of a lockdown and we were just like, this is so amazing to do something in person as opposed to the online stuff. So, and at the time we were quite hopeful that we were coming out of the pandemic. Now it feels a bit different now, so there's an extra poignancy to these lyrics, because at the time we were quite hopeful. So this is the message that we were trying to convey at the time. So this song is called Emerging Unmasked. These days are nearing the end, I'm coming home. I found a four-leaf clover, and now I'm free to roam. Strength rising up, we'll never give up. I'll search the highway, we will meet again. Was it so much, just one last push to get us back to where we want to be. The sun is shining, no need to hide away. I hear the birds are singing, the trees and flowers sway. Time to lead up, I miss you so much. I see your face and that will light me up. It's been so hard, I haven't lost heart. We sing and dance like we've never been apart, and then we start. The spirit locked up inside is now emerging. The spirit locked up inside, it turns to me. Resilience now unmasking. We find freedom. We're not asking.
inside. It's now emerging. The spirit locked inside. It's now unmasking. The spirit locked inside. It's now unmasking. The spirit locked inside. Now unmasking. The spirit locked inside. Now unmasking. We find freedom in our asking.
Thank you so much for that. That was wonderful. It sounded better this time than the last time I heard it, but then that was in the Latin rain and stuff. Exactly. But I believe you got another surprise for us as well, just to kind of use another song, which again, to my mind, the last time I sang it was also kind of a community-involved song about circumstances of community. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris, I believe.
Yeah. This is a song myself and Aline wrote. God, it was maybe 2 years ago. And I had put together a song because it's to do with homelessness and the kind of institutionalization of the mind that kind of happens, that you kind of slip away with, you know. So it's basically just about the experience of being homeless and and just how that feels, really. So yeah, that's it. Okay.
I threw a stone at her chest. We were so young, the children of ourselves. When our was done, the path was all set.
you might put a few questions to yourselves. The first thing is, I neither introduced myself, who I am, what my role is, and that was on purpose. The reason why will become clear after lunch when we begin the voice open dialogue. Either that, I'm trying to socially construct a new reality that won't embarrass me, forgetting to introduce myself. Which it is after lunch. I also wanted to say, I want to put it out to the rest of the people in a second. I just want to give at least my understanding of how this evolved. This evolved was, and just to be clear, Ali, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, you all walked into a shed of rain out there outside here during the summer in August, and you started from scratch. And you wrote the words, you wrote the music, you created the lyrics, you created the harmony. Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this was not just, oh, here's a song, we'll sing a song. This was a creation through the entire group. I think that's quite important. And some of your questions might be relevant to that. But what I'm going to do is pose a few questions to any of you to come up with maybe an answer if you feel fit. So, your argument might be that music provides dialogue. Your argument might also be that music and the creation of music is something to do with mental health. And your argument might also be that it's relevant to the Recovery College and what the Recovery College does. But my question to you is, how is doing what you did relevant to mental health? What has it got to do with recovery education?
I've got a theory. I don't know if it's backed by anyone or not, but I do not believe that you can feel depressed and sing at the same time. Or jump up and down and feel depressed at the same time. Now, this is personal, but I would imagine an awful lot of people, if they actually put it to the test, if you sing out loud your favourite song, you cannot do that and feel depressed at the same time. So I'm not saying singing cures mental illness. It would be great if it did. However, it does give you space, and it gives you, when you're in a state where you just feel so low in yourself, so hopeless, it can feel very all-consuming. If you can sing, it breaks that, it just breaks that walkway. And it gives you something to, well, okay, I can be happy for 5 minutes, so why can't I be happy for maybe 10 minutes? That's my theory.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other kind of thoughts on it?
Yeah, I kind of think that the whole event was relevant to mental health in the sense that isolation can be a big killer when you're experiencing mental health challenges. When you feel on your own, feel isolated. And this was, it was particularly relevant to the pandemic, but this was a kind of a coming together and a connection, making connections with people. And that's really good for your mental health. To be in a good environment, safe environment, make connections with people, create something, and use your agency. So in that sense, I kind of think in combating isolation, it's good to make those connections.
The isolation, from Christine's point, there's two things that came to mind when you asked the question. The first one was around isolation, and I remember driving towards DCU to do the course and mentally trying to work through having not been in groups for months, if not over a year, and working through that. And it brought, what it reminded me of was when I was really struggling with mental health, and the isolation that went with that, and being isolated for a number of years, and trying to get back into spaces socially, and trying to, like, so much neurotic head work to try and get through to just be there with other people. And this was similar, but this was an isolation that was, you know, it was a global experience, also just like in Ireland, you know, everybody was experiencing that to different degrees. So just to be able to kind of shake off the shackles of that isolation, and to be in space again, and the nervousness of being in space. In terms of expression is the second point, and I think just being able to express, and I think the words that are here on this sheet, the words that we sang, where it didn't happen over, we were together for six sessions out in all kinds of weather. There was hailstones in and just getting, like, just exploring words where we were at. And I remember, like, for example, like, before we got to this, there was talk of Zoom was being talked about, because that's how people were generally interacting. And I just remember there was some line about putting my foot through the screen. It was a joke. It was a joke, but the actual emotions that came up that was deep down of anger and sadness, and actually being able to release that by singing it was powerful. So I think that's what the power of getting together is, to sing and have just to free ourselves from emotions.
Just extending that, anybody else can in on this. So we're arguing. So this is about expression. It's about trying to open up, and it's in relation to mental health. So come together, doing this creation of music, creation of song, creation of words together. How is that relevant to your mental health? Given what you've already said, John, is there anything that's about the doing of it that is useful for mental health? Apart from if you're doing it, you can't be depressed. Sorry.
I love music in life. Yes. Well, I play the piano every day, 2 hours.
So the love of music itself.
I've done a few songwriting projects, and like, I don't know if it's the day that's in it, but I actually had to stop singing twice because I actually got emotional, because these words, they seem to be more impactful to me than like other words and other songs. I think it was the energy that we brought at the time, because we were coming up and our mental health was a bit fragile, and like to varying degrees, you know. And then like these words that came out, it was kind of like, it was just like offered out onto the page, and it really felt like it was a true emotion. So it was really expressing something. But just the idea of like isolation to, you know, being with your friends, to proper connection. So I think that writing music together, writing words, is like a turbo connection. It's like what humans should be doing. There was a moment when we were writing the song, and it just came out of nowhere. Do you know that bit at the end where we were singing 2 different parts? So that kind of happened by accident. Someone was like, we'll keep doing this, and we just kind of naturally split into 2 groups, and we were singing these 2 things at the same time. That moment was brilliant. Like, the connection there was just, we were just looking at each other with these big smiles, because when you make something, it's like you're connecting, but you're actually connecting as a group. Like, so in terms of mental health, like, you feel like you're one thing, and you feel like you're safe and you're protected, as opposed to being around. So doing things together like that is just really powerful. Like, you feel it, you know.
We did a lot of listening too. We listened to each other. Everybody came unique in their own experience of where they were at. And Aline goes, right, we're writing a song, guys. And like, it's, what are we writing a song about? And as John was saying, things came out, you know, I'm putting my foot through the screen. And it was funny, and it was laughter, it was shared. Everybody was thrown in bits and pieces, and some of it was, you know, there was definite emotion behind, you know, like you were saying, the foot through the screen. There was anger there and a broad of emotions, but it was, we were listening to each other and the different emotions that were coming out. And I just felt it was a kind of there was a bit of a joy. We we all came together from various areas, we'd all join. But going and when we were leaving the space, there was a step, there was a bounce in our steps. We were singing the whole way home, and for weeks after, like a worm in your head, it wouldn't go away. But it was the listening to each other and hearing and being able to say stuff and knowing we're being heard. And there was a huge release with that.
It was therapeutic as well. It was very therapeutic. We all were coming from different places during it, and some of the good days and bad days. I think it was the last day I just found out that my cousin had died tragically over in the UK. It was nearly a poignancy that we were finishing off the song. We actually dedicated it to Donald, who died on the 1st of July last year. And another thing for me, because I've been in a couple of other recovery courses through my work initially, and then the facilitation one. And it was the first time I met people in person that I'd only met through Zoom and video conference and stuff before, and that made that added connection was brilliant, and the whole creative process as well. Because I've never been around the process of songwriting where you're creating music and words and that whole thing. And some of the people who aren't here, the travel community, really added some great input to it as well, and created something that make it along. It was a great mixing, it was a great sort of connection to the whole thing. So I thoroughly recommend it to anyone who hasn't tried doing something like that again. I want to try it out. It's a really good process.
Thanks, folks, for that. This is going to continue. We continue into voice after lunch and then back into music again. And we'll just try and see is there a rhythm that kind of can be taken. And certainly I'm going to take inspiration from both songs, the Time to Sing song and the Liberty is a Lock and Key song, in order to try and maybe think through or feel through some of the things we're going to talk about after lunch. All of us in that case. But just before I do, in the spirit of open dialogue, which will become clearer to us all later on, is there any kind of burning question they'd like to put to the musical ensemble before we split for lunch?
It's not a burning question, it's just to thank you so much for sharing your journey and for creating something so beautiful and poignant, and really appreciate it.
Thank you. So a round of applause, I think. Okay, folks, thank you so much for today so far. We've just completed a voice open dialogue, which we all participated in, and thank you for that. Hopefully we got something from that. I'd like to thank everybody who came along today, in particular our facilitators of the ensemble, Chris and Alian, our partners Gateway, our sponsors First Fortnight, the gang from the Dublin North Northeast Recovery College. We're here today is Gavin, Marta, Paula, and some of you have been involved in Recovery College through other crises as well. And to the guys who are recording this, Patrick and Justin, thanks a million. But most of all to the collective, and whatever this collective generated in the past couple of hours we've been with each other today. What you're going to demonstrate over the next 10 minutes is the capacity to, in a very short space of time, to connect in dialogue, despite perhaps thinking that you can't play music, thinking that you don't do rhythm, thinking that it's impossible to connect musically in such a short space of time. I won't put money on it because I think it's illegal to gamble in this room, but I will bet you. What I'm going to ask you to do is just have a look on the floor, see any instrument that you feel you're happy to bang or clatter. Just because of the season that's in it, I'm going to ask you not to use the wind instruments, so I've left them in the box. So any of the instruments on the floors, just kind of grab them. Between myself, Geraldine and Alian, we're going to create maybe a little bit of a drum beat that you can follow. But how will you follow?
Okay. Oh.
First of all, don't play your instruments yet. Everybody grab one or two. You might want to try two. This is plenty around. So, how this works, and it's very difficult not to, because I know some of you want to jump straight in, is one person starts to create a rhythm. So I'm going to actually just create a little bit of a very simple drum rhythm. And then the next person is going to come in and create their own version. You're not copying. This is the individual becoming the we. Okay? So I'll start my version, and then Alain's going to start her version, and then Geraldine's going to start her version, and that gives us a little bit of a kind of a drum connection going on. And as soon as the next person, which will be you, feels comfortable to just kind of make whatever sound you want, that seems to connect for you with what you're already hearing. Once you started, then I'll kind of hopefully try and kind of give you the nod and your turn, and begin to give people the nod as we go. If you didn't pick up an instrument, so it doesn't matter. Kind of give you the nod. Try not to start over here before these have happened, because we're building up the rhythm. By the time we get around in 15 minutes to Chris, we will have a connected community rhythm. That's my promise. Everybody understand? Okay, let's roll. party. Does that sound like we got connected? Yeah. We're connected. Nice dialogue, folks. Thanks a million for today, and we'll see you all on the journey somewhere, someplace. Thanks a million. Cheers, folks.